The year is 2014, and we have a new EV startup on the horizon, Faraday Future. And by 2016, they unveiled their first EV prototype, the FF01. The following year, at CES, they unveiled the car you're most likely familiar with, the FF91. Well, it's now 2025. The Tesla killer Faraday Future has sold like 16 cars so far. What the hell happened to Faraday Future? Now, let me start off by saying this is not a financial or stock video. I know absolutely nothing about Faraday's financials. Better yet, I just don't care. That is because, well, I know they're absolutely horrible. The founder, Jia Ting, that guy went into $3.5 billion of debt for Faraday. Why do I need to read the balance sheet when I already know it's absolutely horrible? But for a company with such a horrible balance sheet to be around for more than a decade, clearly they have something to show for it. So let's talk about what they've been doing. Now, in 2017, when they unveiled their prototype FF91, a 1,050 horsepower, 2.3 second 0 to 60, 300-mile range luxury beast, that was absolutely astonishing. And today, 1,000 horsepower, a 2.3 second 0 to 60. Now today, they're claiming 380 miles of range. Those numbers are absolutely insane still for today. So clearly, Faraday has hardware that proves that they can build something good, something interesting. I mean, when you look at Faraday's balance sheet and some of their investor diagrams, they compare the Faraday Future to a Ferrari SF90 and a Rolls-Royce Cullinan, okay? This thing is a supercar and a Rolls-Royce beater at the exact same time. And when you look at the interior and exterior and the numbers, maybe they're not far off. They could be exaggerating just a little bit, but clearly they have something. Now, let me say Faraday will unveil a new vehicle this month, okay? I was doing research just a couple days ago. Faraday had their Investors Day, and I went through all of their diagrams and PDFs and all of that. And yeah, they're coming out with a vehicle this month, June 2025. I'm filming this June 3rd, 2025. June 2025, by the end of this month, they will unveil their MPV AI EV van, which will also have a hybrid powertrain. So it seems Faraday is kind of leaning back on the internal combustion engine. But the MPVs that we see all around China, from XPeng to Geely, all of these companies doing well with MPVs, they're bringing an MPV to the United States, this great, absolutely great nation. Now, this van is going to be under Faraday's sub-brand, Faraday X. So you have Faraday Future, and this is, quote, disrupting the traditional prestige of brands like Ferrari and Maybach. Yeah, okay, buddy. That's what they claim, and that's what Faraday Future is going to be. For cars, $80,000 and more, that is going to be their premium brand. Now, they have Faraday X, and Faraday X is going to be like their Toyota. That's pretty much what they say, positioning as the Toyota of AI EVs by equipping a $30,000 to $80,000 model with many of the core technologies of the $309,000 FF91. So they have Faraday Future, these expensive cars. They're bringing all that technology down to FX on a cheaper level, a Toyota level, dare I say. Now, that will be on their FX platform. As I said, that is going to be unveiled this month. So if it is interesting and it's not a load of BS, you know how car companies love to show us EVs, new cars, and it's like a prototype, but it looks like a hunk of junk. It's like, I can't drive that. That doesn't make any sense. If they show us a realistic car that could be a, production vehicle, then I will report on it. That being said, they expect to start producing this later this year. Yeah, so 6-month timeline. They are showing this in June, and by the end of 2025, they are looking to start production in their Hanford, California factory, which they acquired back in 2017. It is a 1.1 million square foot, 10,000 vehicle capacity warehouse that used to be owned by Pirelli. They leased it back in 2017. They took out the option to buy it, so now they own this factory, which is a good sign. Rarely do I want to pay attention to startups. Really, at this point, I can't believe I'm still calling Faraday a startup, but they haven't really proved themselves yet. They are a startup. I don't like to pay attention to them when they don't have a factory. That is just the case. Tello, they don't have a factory yet. I don't even want to look at you. All right. Bollinger, no factory. Aptera, you barely got a factory. Slate, they cut it. Okay. They got a factory kind of that they're working on. But if you don't have a factory, la 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 la, I don't want to hear it. You got to have a factory. But Faraday has it, which is very, very good. And that factory in Hanford, California, which is outside of Fresno, California, which is a city in between Los Angeles and San Francisco, for those who are not aware, Central California. That is where they're going to be producing this AI MPV. That is not it. They're also looking to produce their FX5 and FX6, which they've actually been showing on their social media for quite some time. Okay, Faraday's social media is really active. Not going to lie. They are on it like every other day, posting something on their stories, posting a new image, talking about their vehicles, their prototypes that are be taken, built in other countries like China, and they're bringing them to the United States for testing and ADAS testing and software testing. Okay, Faraday is like still doing a lot. Maybe they're lying, but from the outside looking in, they're doing something. Now, the FX5 will be a $20,000 to $30,000 vehicle. The FX6 will be a $30,000 to $50,000 vehicle. And their MPV, forgot to mention the name, it's called the Super One. That's the name of this van. It is going to have its price revealed later this month. I guess they haven't released a price on that yet. But the way they're segmenting it, it will be below $80,000 on the starting price. And so that is very good to hear. They'll be producing at max capacity 10,000 of those out of California every single year. Now, with economies of scale, if Faraday expects to sell a car that is $20,000 and $30,000, they're going to need a bigger factory. So what I imagine is they're expecting this Super One MPV to be a success, right? It's going to help them and show that Faraday, while in the past has, not been great, they're actually doing something, and it'll help them get more debt, get more cash, get more investors. They can invest and get a bigger factory where then they can produce more vehicles. Because without large scale, producing a $30,000 car that is competitive with the likes of the Model Y, at that point we'd be getting, next generation Mach-E, ID4, Rivian R2, the next generation Lucid midsize sedan, SUV. So they're going to need a bigger factory, and I imagine this factory is just to kind of show and help them build their first vehicles and then kind of move on to their smaller vehicles, which again, they are testing on the road right now as I film this. Look, we live in a world full of EV startups, okay? We had Fisker, they left, then Fisker came back. We have Rivian, which has proven themselves. We have Lucid, which has more than proven themselves. We had Tesla, which at one point was a startup. Now I would say they're not really a legacy OEM, but they are a full professional OEM, and they've proved themselves to be able to produce millions of cars every single year. And we had Nikola, Bollinger, Canoe. EV startups come and go. But you know who came and hasn't gone? Faraday. And so I am interested. I'm genuinely curious to see what Faraday unveils in June. Faraday, if you're watching this, send your boy a flight. I'll head my way out there. I would love to see what Faraday has in store. But genuinely, I think it's interesting that a company has been able to survive all of this and continue to hold infrastructure, property, investments. And again, as of today, they've produced less than 20 vehicles. Of the FF91, they've actually sold them to people. A lot of those are like investors and other people that they're trying to collaborate with. Like, for instance, Chris Brown. All right, never did I think I was going to talk about Chris Brown on the Out of Spec Bits channel. But yeah, apparently he's like a co-collaborator, and he did some Faraday stuff. They've taken all of these like almost, I want to say, B-class celebrities, B-list celebrities, and from various shows and with a little bit of clout, and we're like, hey, we'll pay you some money to be our Faraday spokesperson. And that's pretty much what looks to be happening. But again, they've sold vehicles. The FF91 starts at $300,000. So that is very expensive, and for a startup, it's, I would say, almost harder to sell at that level, right? You're in Rolls Royce, Lamborghini, McLaren territory. But they've been able to sell some vehicles, which shows that they can produce stuff. Now, what looks to be happening is they are going to be taking the same factory in Hanford, California, right? All of the body stamping and all of that is going to happen elsewhere. They're looking to work with other suppliers. The final assembly, the paint shop, the body shop, all of that will be in-house with final assembly, paint, and all of that. And then they will ship vehicles out of that location. But Faraday is still here, guys. They still have infrastructure. They are still planning to release vehicles, which is absolutely crazy to say. They've had CEOs come and go, gone through all kinds of financial issues. They've gone through periods where people have had to sue them because they didn't pay their rents for leasing properties that they've leased. And yeah, they've had some issues, but they're still around. And that's really it. There isn't like a ton to say about Faraday, even though like I went in depth and I've been reading all of the craziness that they've been going through. In fact, you know what? I'll read their Business Wire Faraday Future holds annual Stockholders Day. That was June 1st. So just a couple days ago about what Faraday has been doing. Faraday Future holds first annual Stockholders Day. Company provides FX product updates. As I mentioned, FX is their sub-brand. Confirms FX Super One, their MPV launch timing, and secures 600 new deposits from multi-channel network agencies. Okay, the successful event reflects Faraday Future's commitment to transparency, stockholder engagement, and long-term value creation as the company accelerates towards its mission of revolutionizing the intelligent electric vehicle space. The first exclusive offline product launch event for the FX Super One is scheduled on June 29th. All right, June 29th, it's coming. Tailored for 5 key groups, including stockholders and investors. The Super One Global Product Launch, a large-scale public launch event, is scheduled to be held on July 17th. With recent business-to-business agreements reached between 2 U.S. MCN agencies, the total number of FX business-to-business deposits for FX Super One has now reached over 2,500 units. And something that I've been reading through a lot of these documents of Faraday Future is that they're really targeting business to business. And so even though, right, I think that an MPV would actually do great for just regular consumers, families, it seems that they're trying to target companies that may be interested in, using them for their own fleets or like Turo-like services, but just sell large numbers instead of selling right directly to consumers. And they say, right, 2,500 deposits, 2,500 units that they have in terms of deposits made that they can sell off. And so that's a quarter of the annual production for their Hanford, California facility. And so that will help them get started. And again, these agreements, reading through, a lot of them are non-refundable. So these companies, these businesses, MCN agencies are making deposits that are non-refundable, sometimes in the tens of thousands, which in the grand scheme, right, when you're buying a fleet of vehicles, that could be in the tens of millions, but they're spending tens of thousands of dollars to secure vehicles for the future. And so I maybe I'm being bamboozled. Maybe I fell for the trick, but I actually think that Faraday could do it. I've been following what they've been doing. They've actually hit a lot of their timelines, guys. I think Faraday, and I don't own any of the stock, by the way, but I think Faraday might actually be doing something. Attending stockholders and guests experience a ride and drive, including multiple FX prototype mules, including the FX Super One, the FX6, and the FX4. I forgot, yeah. So they have a ton of other FX vehicles that they're working on, and I saw through some pictures, yeah. At this shareholders event, they let people like see the inside of the vehicles. Of course, they're all camouflaged on the outside and there's camouflage on the inside, but you get a good idea of what the vehicles look like in terms of sizing. FX unveiled the first design rendering of the FX4 at the Stockholder Day event, with plans to unveil the FX4 product plan in Q3 of 2025 and begin accepting pre-orders before year end. Why don't we sell vehicles first, Faraday? Right? Let's sell some vehicles first before we start doing pre-orders, But yeah, look, Faraday is doing something. I mean, this is the FX4 here pictured. And I mean, I would say the Faraday design language, I mean, let me know what you guys think, is good. It's not bad. It is a Chinese-backed, Chinese-founded company. A lot of their employees are from China. It's California-based. But again, the founder is Chinese and a lot of their engineers are Chinese. So it's like a lot of the design and nomenclature of the FX vehicles reminds me of Chinese cars, which is actually a good thing. I like some of the design choices that Chinese automakers are doing. That being said, the FF91 is like a decade old at this point. It's getting really old, almost a decade old, and its design is kind of outdated. So it'll be interesting to see what these new designs look like with the FF FX Super One van, as well as their FX and their FX4, 5, and 6, and all of the other FX cars. Yeah, it's a lot of effing. As read through here, Faraday X will host a large-scale public launch event on July 17th to Super One online global product launch. Faraday, right here. Send us an email. I'd love to come. But yeah, look, let me know what you guys think of Faraday. And, I think if you're in the EV space, you're used to these EV startups coming and going. It's really not that surprising production is hard, right? And that's something that Elon has said, and we've seen it through Tesla and Lucid and even legacy OEMs. Producing a vehicle is hard, okay? And getting to that point of scaling production is difficult. And the fact that Faraday's still here, I'm kind of rooting for them. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. This is Out of Spec Bits, and I'll see you guys in the next one.